having a final conversation this morning, and we have joining with us on set, we have Noriko Gamero. I'm horrible with names. They should really hit me over the head for that. Who is the Director of Cruise and Destination Planning at the Belize Tourism Board. And we also have with us Mr. Hubert Pipersburgh, who is the Economic Development Manager at the Belize City Council. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
You guys are here to talk to us about the Fort George Tourism Village Sensitization campaign that's going on. I want to ask you guys to go back a little and talk to us about what the project is all about and why it became necessary to do this campaign.
Sure. So I have a PowerPoint presentation. I don't know if they have it that we can show.
Yeah, you can start, and they'll.
All right. So basically, Belize City moves about 800,000 cruise passengers a year. And with that has grown exponentially over the years and continues to grow. And what we're trying to do is a restructuring of the way the operations outside the port work. So if you can see in the Caribbean, these are all our competitors. These are all the cruises that we are competing with as a destination. And if you go on to the next one.
So this is the route that the...
So these are all the different Caribbean-based ports. And these are different types of itineraries that you'll see. So you'll have some that are Western Caribbean, some that are Eastern Caribbean. And Belize tends to be on the west, which is constantly, booked together, grouped together with Roatan, Cozumel, Costa Maya, and then back to port in the US. So one of the things that we've also seen is a trend in our guest experience. So the last BRIA study that was done, I think in 2014, we ranked 23rd out of 33 countries.
Wow.
So as a destination, and you're looking at what your competition is, you want to make sure that you can continue to be attractive and that you can continue to have people coming into your destination.
But
sure.
Isn't some of that the fact that we are normally on the tail end? So persons who probably had, in almost all of the itineraries that you have up there, we are second to last or last. And so doesn't that contribute to what we can offer? Because people are probably tired being on a cruise ship for I don't know how long, 2 weeks, a week.
Well, it's funny. Our cruise destination has a lot to offer. Whether we're at the beginning or the end, most of the time we're in the middle just because of the way we're geographically located. It's what your destination has to offer which makes you competitive. And in that regards, we do very well. So we looked at different types of things. So we looked at the numbers, and the disembarkation that we have is about 81.7% of the people that come off the ship, which is very high in comparison to other places that have docking ports. And of that, 65% go on tours, which means we have a huge array of different activities in Belize to do. One of the main ones being the city tour, and that is what we're trying to fix. It's not the what we have to offer, but the how we offer it is what we're trying to improve. So the overall objective is restructure the outside of the port, so the guest experience, uplift the image, so the infrastructure, painting, signage, structuring orders, flows of traffic, the buses. We want to ensure they have the increase in the ranking of Belize. This is really just showing you the two ports and the numbers that we're looking at. So I think I'm a little of the presentation, slides, yes. But if you can continue a little bit further up, I'll show you what the campaign is going to do. I think so you're saying the campaign is to improve not only the physical infrastructure, but also the experience. That's right. What were the challenges, we had that this campaign, Sensitization campaign, is trying to direct itself towards alleviating? So, both in terms of infrastructure and in terms of experience. Right. So the following slide, it shows you a map of the area that is being impacted. So those are the three objectives, right? So this entire area is, of course, the terminal for the ports, We have the Memorial Park area, and the routes in which current tour operators, traffic flows, passengers flows, etc. So the primary reason that we're trying to pedestrianize the street behind Mirab all the way up to Terminal 1 between certain hours. So we're now going to restrict traffic, and that's going to allow us now to shift the traffic to different areas. Reason being, the next slide, is the way, because we're a tender port, we have an overcrowding inside the port. So if you have several tender operators coming in at the same time, the tender boats are getting bigger, you're getting, almost 1,000, 2,000 people coming at the same time. They're trying to congregate into their tour groups. They're waiting inside in line, and then you have the backup traffic isn't ready. One person goes to the restroom. So these are the problems that we're trying to alleviate. So obviously the first thing is the overcrowding on the decks. The second thing is the delays due to the congestion. So you have everybody using Terminal 1 and 2 for loading, and that's every tour operator. There's no assignment of a specific loading area to anybody, so it's kind of who comes first. If your group isn't ready, you have to go drive around. You have to, and it creates a delay, it creates an unpleasant guest experience for the guest as well, who's, you promised me a 3-hour tour, and because of all of these delays, next time. And it doesn't always happen, but on a very busy ship day, it can happen.
And also has an economic impact too, because if I have 3 hours to spend in Belize,
right,
I have 3 hours of money to spend.
That's
in Belize
correct.
as well. So.
And then you also have the people that are walking out, and they're walking between these buses trying to get on, or I don't want to go on a tour, I just want to walk out, and so it's an unsafety factor as well. And then in addition to that, then you have the unsatisfactory, the guest experience of the people having So the unsatisfactory guest experience of the buses, and they come out and they're not aware of these different surroundings. They're kind of used to, having structured and people waiting in lines. And so for them, it can be impactful, and they will come back in, and all of that affects our rankings. So how does it come to life? Who works in this area? So what we're trying to do is restructure the vendors, the tour operators, we have the hair braiders, and all the guides and their drivers that work within this area. So we developed actually a committee, which is called the Fort George Tourism Zone Committee, which comprises of the BTIA, BTB, our Ministry of Tourism, the City Council, which Mr. Hubert here is the chair of that committee. And the objective of this committee is to come up with a proposal to execute this trial run. So this has been about 2 years or more in the making, and I can say probably over 50 plus stakeholder meetings. And every time we meet with a different group of people, they give us good feedback, which is continuously improving this plan.
So maybe this is a good way to get Hubert into the conversation.
She's doing good.
To tell us what role does the City Council play in this campaign?
Well, the City Council is the administrative arm of the city. I mean, they're tasked with making sure traffic, sanitation. So obviously, if BTB wants to do anything outside of the village, it would impact the city. So hence, the City Council has to be involved. And so our role is to ensure that we help to facilitate the ease of movement for when we try to do the staging that we're doing. And so, for example, let's say we go to Marion Jones, we restage there. Traffic will be impacted along the Marine Parade area around that, coming from Marion Jones. So of course, our traffic officers and personnel will have to be out there. So the council is more of a, I would say, here to ensure that we protect the interests of our city and that we don't compromise, the value for the residents of the city.
And in terms of looking at the entire, I'm sure the City Council has gone through some consultations on their own in terms of what impact some of the changes that are intended to be made will have on the population? How has that been going?
Well, like Ms. Gamero was
Like
saying,
pedestrianization of the... Of
well,
that?
I mean, you know, the thing about it, see, look, tourism is a very important aspect of our sector of our economy. We have a lot of people that depend, stakeholders, not just stakeholders, but people who their livelihood is, you know, depending on tourism. So it's, you know, national interest, at least in the city at this particular time, to make sure that we can improve the efficiency, the effectiveness, and economics of the tourism industry as it relates to Belize City. So specifically, what we want is to ensure that that when we do this kind of move, we're not picking winners and losers. We want to ensure that everyone have an opportunity to be a part of the mix, if you will, or have access to the pie that's been shared. So, because, you know, if you're a big tour operator, obviously you have contracts with the cruise line, so you don't have to worry about it. You're going to get your people no matter what. But if I'm a small tour guy, who I'm my own operator and tour guide, I have to fish it for myself. So we want to make sure that somebody like that is not marginalized.
Yeah, and I think that goes perfectly this slide, because the way we partner with the city council is they're the ones that issue trade license, they're the ones that issue peddler's license, control of traffic flows, parking, and that's where this partnership was so crucial, because we needed to make sure that the application forms are in a manner that it stipulates a set of criteria to improve the guest experience. So for example, I think maybe about a year ago, we had operators that sell outside of the port, which is what we call independent operators. And 10 years ago, there was probably just a handful of them, and it continues to increase. And there's no restriction, there's no criteria that's stopping them for this to continue growing. And growth isn't bad, but sometimes if it's not controlled, then the people that are there instead of making $10 are now making $1, because the growth isn't as drastic in the numbers of arrivals. So it has to be in a manner that is controlled outside.
Is the physical space itself, have we outgrown the physical space of the tourism village itself? And what can we do outside of getting more real estate to make sure that it works smoothly? Because some of the problem must be just congestion, lack of space.
Well, yeah. So that's the whole that's the whole purpose of the restructuring. If you look at Terminal 1 and Terminal 2, there's only 4 buses that can load at any given time, or inside of Terminal 2, which is restricted area, has another 4 buses. So that you can't expand. I mean, it's the area is there. So you have to think outside the box, and that is where we're proposing now to go into the Memorial Park area. So a couple years ago, there was a big investment in that area, and it's trying to revive the economic boost into that zone. So by now creating a pedestrianized area, and you move the loading to the Memorial Park, now you're pushing all these economies of scale, all this traffic area, and that is where the new craft market will now be. So all the loading that currently happens at Terminal 1 and Terminal 2, that those are people that are not going through the craft market right now, or they're not, wandering in that area and trying to see what else they can do. These are people that are just being picked up at the door and dropped off. So now by pushing loading and offloading at the Memorial Park, you're now creating that opportunities for business in that area.
When you say loading and offloading at the Memorial Park, what does that mean specifically in terms of logistics? They will no longer come off at the...
So the proposal that we have right now is that at Jones becomes a staging area. So this means that I don't know if you guys have been down Marine Parade on a cruise ship day, and you'll see all these buses lined off on both sides. If you go out there early enough at 5 in the morning, everyone's trying to find a parking space there. And what we're proposing is that all the tour operators that have buses, vans, vehicles all wait at Amarian Jones as a staging area. However, we will also have a parking assigned to each tour operator. So the contracted operators will be able to access Terminal 1 and 2 until 10:30 in the morning, and then after 10:30, it becomes pedestrianized. Remember I said we have different categories of tour operators. So the other one is the independent operators, and then these will be now shifted to load at the Memorial Park. So each operator will have assigned parking. And so if you're a tour operator and you have 10 guides working for you with 10 vehicles, you'll have 2 on the rotation parked there, so at no time will your guest have to wait for that vehicle to come all the way here, right? You'll have them parked there, you'll walk your guests down from terminal through where the existing craft market is, but it will be shifted to the Memorial Park. And then they can load there, and then they can go on their tour. And then when they come back, they drop off at the park as well.
I'm curious to see what the reception has been like for the service providers, the hair braiders, the operators, to this change.
Well, it's been 2 years. It's a sensitization. It's something that they have given us feedback. I think when we first started, they told us, oh no, Marion Jones is out 10 minutes, they're gonna be waiting, and then like, okay, they're right. We looked back at the proposal and we said, okay, well, we can have 2 of them parked there so that we reduce that time of delay. So those are compromises that we're making. I think, what else? We've had the hair braiders now, we've done restructuring for them from, they used to have literally a tent on the street, and when it rained, and you know, they had to be holding it up with some blocks. So now we put in the nice infrastructure for them to be able to hair braid in that area. So it's a cultural change. It's a shift that for years they've been working on this, and we probably don't have all the answers. We're doing the trial run, so on October 9th, I think, I don't know if you want to say a bit.
Well, the trial run is like, I mean, like any policy that you're trying to formulate, you can go over so many variables and you still miss some. So the mayor is like, you know what, let's do his word, dry run. You know, let's see what it's going to look like. And while we're doing this, then we can ascertain okay, maybe we need to scrap this, maybe we need to improve this here, so we can study practically what's as it's occurring. So that's why the dry run is so important, because it's going to give us an idea if in fact this will actually work.
Yeah.
You know,
what's the duration of the trial run, and what is the next step after the trial run, and the duration between after the trial run finishes and that process to actually final implementation?
So what we're proposing is 2 weeks. We're going to have a group of people that are going to be assigned to subsector groups. Group assigned to hair braiders, one group to vendors, one group to, let's say, these first 10 tour operators. And every day after the cruise ship day is a post-mortem. So we kind of come back, reevaluate, and then you have those lines of communication to those specific. Let's say tomorrow we're going to change, let's say, you know, the North Park route from north to south didn't work, let's shift it back. Things like that. Or you know what, this tour operator was assigned 2 spaces, but he's actually hiring more or is growing, because these are things that they might be working on right now on a negotiation that we might not be aware of. So they might need more parking spaces, and then we need to reevaluate that. So things like that will be done daily during that 2-week trial run. The idea is that after those 2 weeks, it continues until we start going through the process of the application form, the zone passes, kind of like formalizing your trade license to this specific. So right now it's kind of really going based on status quo, that you are a vendor in this area, and we acknowledge that you're a vendor, and you will, you know, kind of be transitioned into this plan.
Question for, just to add to what Noriko was saying, look, with any policy, you know, this trial run is not necessarily implementation per se. It's to ascertain if we can implement for down the road. So I don't want to, like, you know, I'm cautiously optimistic. We don't want to jump ahead of ourselves, because I mean, you know, it's when you're trying to introduce change, of course there's going to be you know, resistance to it, you know, that too, but resistance to it as well. So, but the key is we want to make sure that everyone has an equitable opportunity to still earn a living without compromising that. That's for us at the City Council. That's key for us.
I want to give you guys the opportunity, as we're running out of time, to, in this sensitization campaign, maybe to give one final pitch on this forum that you'd like to register on the people who is going to impact, whether or not it's the public or the stakeholders in this.
I think for me, it's the importance of us regularizing outside the operations, and to improve their sales, they need to have control of that, the growth, or more and more tour operators aren't coming out there. They will be able to have a rotation system. They don't have to be, you know, fighting over a price. Now they can actually make more money for that same tour, because you're going to have, you know, that you're next in turn, and that person is not going to undersell you, you know, and then you have that security at night as well, that tomorrow you're not going to wake up and there are 10 more operators out there. So I think for me, it's a two-way win-win, that we increase guest experience, they make money, the word gets out, because crews know how to get the word out, and once that gets out, then that will kind of show an increase in sales outside, or at least that's the theory.
Well, for the city council and the mayor specifically, is to ensure that we look out for the interests of the residents, and for those individuals who are employed in the tourist industry down in that area, that they have a fair shot, and that we are here to protect their interests. Essentially, that's key for us.
All right. We want to thank you guys for coming in and sharing with us where you guys are. And with that, we have to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to do a wrap-up.